If you have a webcam connected to your computer, I need you to do something. Don't turn it on. Don't check whether it's on. I know how that sounds. If I were watching someone say this a week ago, I would have laughed. I would have closed the video and joked about paranoia. That's exactly what I would have done before this happened to me. I'm recording this because I don't know what else to do. 3 nights ago, my webcam light flickered while I was sitting alone at my desk. It lasted less than a second. I checked my settings, unplugged the camera, and assumed it was a software glitch. Then I checked my browser history. There was a website listed there that I had never visited. No name, no recognizable domain, just a string of numbers and letters. I clicked it. The page loaded instantly. It was completely black except for a video window in the center. Inside that window was my bedroom. Not a recording, not an old photograph. Live footage. I could see myself sitting at my desk, staring at the screen. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The image was coming from behind me. My webcam was sitting in front of my face. It could not see that angle. The first thing I noticed wasn't that the website could see me. It was that it could see me from somewhere my camera couldn't. I wish that had been the worst part. It wasn't. Because later, the website showed me something that hadn't happened yet. I'm going to explain what I found, including the rules I wish I had known before opening that page. But first, you need to understand how I found it. Because I didn't discover the website. It discovered me. I worked from home, which meant most of my days were spent in the same small room, staring at the same monitor until my eyes felt like they had been sanded down. I lived alone. At night, especially, I stayed online much longer than I ever should have. My webcam sat on top of the monitor. I kept a little piece of black tape over the lens whenever I wasn't using it. It wasn't because I believed someone was watching me. I just figured cameras were creepy enough without giving them an open invitation. I was skeptical about almost everything. Ghost stories were entertaining, and conspiracy theories were usually nonsense. Those videos claiming strangers could hack your webcam and watch you through your screen? Clickbait. I had actually laughed at one once. That memory became much less funny later. The first thing happened shortly after midnight. I was answering emails when the tiny little indicator beside my webcam suddenly lit up. Just for a second. Then it went dark. I froze. I looked at the camera, then at my computer screen. Nothing had changed. No video call was open. No program was using the camera. I checked my settings and found nothing unusual. I told myself it was an update. Or a driver glitch. Computers did weird things. That was normal. About 20 minutes later, my microphone icon appeared in the corner of my screen. This time, it stayed there for several seconds. I heard faint static through my headphones. Then silence. I checked my permissions, closed every application, and ran a security scan. Everything came back clean. That should have reassured me. Instead, my browser opened a new tab by itself. I stared at it. Then another tab appeared. My cursor moved slightly across the screen. I didn't touch the mouse. I unplugged it. The cursor stopped. For a few seconds, I actually laughed to myself. Okay, I said to the empty room. Very funny. Then I opened my search history. There were searches I hadn't made. Most were meaningless. But one made me stop breathing for a moment. How long can someone watch you before you notice? I searched through forums and cybersecurity posts for an explanation. Malware, remote access, browser extensions, stolen credentials. Nothing matched. Eventually, I convinced myself I was overreacting. That was the mistake. Because I almost ignored everything. And if I had, none of this might have happened. The strange thing is, I later realized the website wasn't forcing me to find it. It was waiting for me to become curious. Then, at 2:17 in the morning, my browser opened a page I had never seen before. My browser opened a completely black page. There was no logo, no search bar, no recognizable domain name. Just darkness and a small white message in the center of the screen. Camera connected. I stared at it for several seconds. Then I reached up and covered the webcam with my piece of black tape. The message disappeared. A second line appeared. Why? My stomach tightened. I pulled the tape away. The message changed immediately. Camera connected. I covered it again. Why? I didn't move. For a moment, I tried to convince myself there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe some script was detecting the camera permission. Maybe the browser had somehow accessed a device status indicator. Then I closed the tab. The browser reopened it. I closed it again. It came back. I grabbed the webcam and yanked the USB cable from the computer. The page went black. Then new words appeared. You don't need it. I stopped breathing. That was when the fear became real. I opened Task Manager and checked every process running on the computer. Nothing looked suspicious. I checked my browser extensions. Nothing unfamiliar. I ran another security scan, then another. Clean. Everything was clean. I even disconnected my computer from the internet. The website remained open. That was impossible. I took out my phone and typed the strange address manually. The page loaded, but there was nothing there. Just a blank screen. I refreshed it. Nothing. I looked back at my monitor. The website was still there. And now there was an image in the center of the page. At first, it was too blurry to recognize. Then the picture sharpened. My bedroom, my desk, my chair, and me. I was sitting exactly where I had been sitting. I stared at the image, trying to understand what I was seeing. The angle was wrong. My webcam was on the monitor in front of me. It couldn't possibly be filming from behind my chair. But the image showed the back of my head. It showed my entire room from somewhere near the doorway. I slowly turned around. Nothing. The room was exactly as it should have been. I looked back at the screen. The image had changed. Something was standing behind me. Tall, thin, completely motionless. I couldn't see its face. I turned around again. Nothing. My hands started shaking. I looked at the screen one more time. The figure was closer. I grabbed my phone and called my friend Daniel. He answered, sounding half asleep. What happened? I think someone hacked my computer. He sighed. Unplug the internet. I did. Then shut the computer down. I did that too. There was a pause. Then what are you calling me on? My phone. Okay. And what's the problem? I swallowed. My camera. Daniel became quiet. If someone can see through your camera, he said, unplug the camera. That's the problem, I whispered. They aren't using the camera. He didn't answer. Neither did I, because on the monitor, the figure had moved again. I didn't know it then, but other people had seen that same figure from that same impossible angle years before me. I hadn't found them. I thought I was dealing with a hacker. Then I found the post that I spent the next 20 minutes searching for anything that could explain what I had seen. I stopped looking at normal cybersecurity forums and went deeper into forgotten message boards, archive threads, and obscure communities where people posted things that sounded ridiculous until they became personal. Then I found the first thread. It had been deleted years ago, but an archive still contained the text. The user described a webcam turning on by itself, then a black website appearing in their browser, then an image of their bedroom from an impossible angle. At the bottom, they had written one sentence. Don't let it see you looking at it. I thought it was some elaborate creepypasta. Then I found another post. Different username. Different year. Same website. Same impossible camera angle. Same figure. The final line said, the website isn't recording you. Another reply had been preserved beneath it. It's checking whether you're still there. I leaned back from my monitor. That sentence bothered me more than anything else. I kept searching. There were posts from 2018, 2020, 2022, and even one from several months earlier. People described the webcam activating, the website appearing without being opened, and the figure becoming closer each time they looked away. Some users claimed they had destroyed their computers. Others said the website appeared on new devices afterward. One account kept appearing across several archives. Watcher_13. The username was attached to dozens of posts, but almost all of them had been deleted. I found fragments through cached pages and broken archives. Most were meaningless. Then I found one titled, "If you see it, follow these rules." There were only 3 rules left. Never acknowledge the figure. Never open the website twice in one night. If it waves, turn off every screen in your house. I actually laughed. It was nervous laughter, the kind that happens when your brain wants desperately to believe something is stupid. "Yeah, okay," I whispered. "Turn off every screen because the spooky website told me to." Then I looked at my monitor. The figure was still standing behind me, except it wasn't standing anymore. One arm was raised. Its hand was lifted toward me, waving. My smile disappeared. I didn't move. The figure moved its fingers. Slowly. Once. Twice. 3 times. I reached for the power button, but stopped. There was another line underneath the rules, almost completely hidden by the black background. I zoomed in. It said, "There are 7. My heart started pounding. Only 3 rules were visible. The remaining 4 had been locked behind a password. I should have closed the page. Instead, I became obsessed with finding that password. The deeper I searched, the more certain I became that someone had hidden those rules for a reason. And whatever they were protecting people from was watching me from somewhere inside my room. I spent the next hour trying to find it. I should have stopped when I found it, that I found the password buried inside the website's source code. A line of meaningless characters had been disguised as a comment, but when I copied it into the password field, the page unlocked. The screen went completely white. Then a black title appeared. Observation Protocol. Underneath it was a list. Rule 1. Never cover the camera after it activates. Rule 2. Never look directly behind you after seeing movement. I stopped breathing. That was exactly what I had been doing all night. Rule 3. Do not speak to the person in the image. Rule 4. If the image shows your room empty, leave immediately. Rule 5. If the website displays tomorrow's date, do not sleep. Rule 6. If you see yourself standing behind yourself, close your eyes. I read the list again. These weren't random rules. They were descriptions of things that had already happened to me. The camera had activated. I had covered it. I had seen movement. I had looked behind me. I had spoken about the figure. Someone had written these rules before I ever found the website. Then I noticed there was one final line. Rule 7. If you're reading this, it already knows you're awake. I felt cold all over. Then I heard a soft sound behind me. A creak. Not from the computer. From my bedroom door. I looked at the website. The live image showed my room. The door was open. I turned my eyes toward the real door. It was closed. Then back at the screen. The door in the image had opened wider. There was darkness beyond it. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. I didn't turn around. The image changed again. The silence afterward was worse, because it made me wonder whether the thing had heard breathing. The door was almost completely open now. Something was standing behind it. I couldn't see its face. I couldn't see its body clearly. Only a tall, narrow shape occupying the doorway. I wanted to look behind me so badly that my neck physically hurt. But Rule 2 kept repeating in my head. Never look directly behind you after seeing movement. So I stayed still. The figure on the screen moved forward. One step, then another. I heard another creak from the real room. My phone suddenly vibrated against the desk. I nearly screamed. I picked it up without looking away from the monitor. Unknown number. One message. Don't turn around. I stared at those words until they blurred. Someone new. Maybe someone was watching through the computer. Maybe someone was inside my house. Or maybe the thing on the screen had found another way to communicate. I didn't know which possibility frightened me more. I slowly placed the phone back on the desk. The figure stopped moving. For the first time that night, I understood something worse than being watched. Whatever was watching me knew exactly what I was afraid of. I decided the computer had to go. I shut everything down, pulled the power cable from the wall, disconnected the router, and unplugged every device I could find. The room went silent. For several seconds, I just stood there breathing. No internet, no webcam, no computer. Whatever had been happening was over. At least, that was what I wanted to believe. Then the monitor turned on. I froze. The screen was black for a moment. Then the website appeared. No internet connection. No webcam connected. Still, the image loaded. It showed me from the side. I was standing beside my desk, staring at the screen. I looked at the image. Then the image changed. Now it showed me from behind. I could see the back of my head. I could see the entire room. Then the perspective shifted again. The image was suddenly inside my bedroom closet. My closet door was closed in reality. But on the screen, the camera was looking outward from the darkness between my hanging clothes. I felt something inside my chest collapse. That was when I finally understood. The website wasn't receiving video. It was showing me what something else could see. I heard breathing. It came from the closet. Slow. Deep. Close. I didn't move. I didn't look. The screen changed. One word appeared. Good. Then another. You learned. I stared at those words, and suddenly the rules made sense. They weren't protecting me from whatever was watching. They were teaching me how to behave while it watched. If I looked behind me, I gave it what it wanted. If I acknowledged it, I gave it permission. If I panicked, maybe it got closer. And if I followed the rules, I stayed predictable. If you've ever heard one of those horror stories where someone says, "Don't look behind you," you probably laughed. I did too. Not anymore. I started wondering how many people had ignored those warnings. How many had opened the website twice? How many had turned around? Several names from the old posts were gone. Their accounts had vanished. Some users had stopped posting immediately after describing the figure. One person had written, "I think it knows when I'm reading about it." That post ended there. I wanted to believe those people had simply deleted their accounts. I needed that explanation. Then the website changed again. The closet disappeared. The screen showed my front door. The camera angle was from outside my apartment. Someone was standing there. They weren't knocking. They weren't moving. They were simply waiting. And then, slowly, they raised their head toward the camera. The figure outside my door raised its head. I waited for someone to appear in the hallway. Nobody did. I listened. Nothing. No footsteps. No knocking. No movement outside my apartment. I finally understood. The figure wasn't physically there. It existed only on the website. But that realization didn't make me feel safer. It made everything worse. Because if the website could show me something that wasn't there, then I had no idea what was real anymore. The figure looked directly into the impossible camera. Then the screen went black. A message appeared. "You can stop recording now." I stared at it. Recording? I looked at the software on my computer. My confession was being recorded. And suddenly, a thought hit me so hard that I nearly stopped breathing. What if this was the point? What if the website hadn't been trying to frighten me? What if it wanted me to tell people about it? Every person who watched this story would become curious. Every person who searched for the website would become another observer. Another pair of eyes. Another person for it to find. I looked at the recording timer. It was moving. I hadn't pressed record. I checked the microphone. It was active too. Then I noticed something else. The audio waveform was moving even though I wasn't speaking. I turned down the volume. The waveform continued. Something was breathing into my microphone. Then I saw the webcam indicator. It was glowing. I wasn't using the webcam. I hadn't even plugged it back in. I leaned away from the monitor. The light stayed on. For a few seconds, I considered shutting everything down and destroying the recording. But then I remembered the message. You can stop recording now. It wasn't a suggestion. It was permission. And that terrified me more than anything else. So I'm leaving this here. If you're watching this because you found the title interesting, that's fine. But please don't search for the website. And whatever you do, don't check whether your camera is on. Because if you check, it already knows you're looking.